hard to capture, extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a convict and start killing. It's manifesting. The gods work like appliances, dealing in my sacred life.
Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, bringing you guys another discussion for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, the manga. And for those of you guys who are not reading the Boruto manga, right now, I am telling you, man, I'm telling you right now, you really need to check out the manga because we got some really hype moments that are going on right now. And next chapter looks like it's going to be an outright slugfest. So I highly recommend checking out the manga so you can join in on these incredible discussions that we're having here over on the channel. But with all that being said, if you're still here, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that you're okay with me talking about spoilers. So I thought it was only right that I make my very first discussion video on Boruto chapter 48 about Boruto Uzumaki, and in particular his tragic suffering that he's gonna go through when Isshiki begins to slaughter all those people in Konoha. I cannot be the only one who absolutely saw that panel where Isshiki was hovering over Konoha and you got all those citizens just looking up at him, the sense of dread on Naruto's face, and in particular that moment where right before that Sasuke's asking Boruto, are you really willing to give your life for the village? Dude, that's one of those times where if that wasn't foreshadowing for some epic stuff coming ahead, I don't know what is. That's a very clear foreshadowing that Boruto is getting ready to go through a bunch of heartbreak right here, and I gotta say it's long overdue. It's very much long overdue when it comes to Boruto actually experiencing some suffering, especially in the manga. In the versus Momoshiki arc, he very briefly saw what it's like to feel despair, real despair, when he thought that Naruto was actually dead. And then you have that moment where Himawari is crying over Hinata's body and Sasuke gives him a reality check. I thought that was good that Boruto felt a real sense of despair right there, but ever since everything that's happened after that, I don't think that Boruto's felt true despair. Even in the Boro fight, even though Momoshiki took over his body, I don't feel like that was true despair for Boruto's character, because when you get into a battle situation, that's different than actually being in a situation where you're utterly hopeless. Like in Boruto versus Boro, he was fighting against somebody he knew that he was outmatched with. He and Team 7, they did a bunch of combo attacks. They did everything they could to take this guy down. Nothing was truly working, and yet it was still within his power to at least try to do something, even if it was a little bit, to try and do something. But now Boruto's facing a threat where he knows this guy just whipped his father's ass, and he just whipped his real father Sasuke's ass. Like, Boruto knows there's nothing he can do, and now this guy is outside of Konoha getting ready to descend. They have not had time to evacuate the villagers, and we have to go back to what Masashi Kishimoto said back in, I believe it was 2016. He said that he gave the green light to Kodachi. When you write this story, you can kill off anybody that you feel the need to. And so far in Boruto's story, like when you look at Black Clover, like I've talked about on Twitter how I've been going back and I've been giving Black Clover a fresh start, because I dropped Black Clover back in 2016 around the time chapter 50 came out, and I picked it back up. And the thing I'll definitely say is the one thing that Black Clover does that Boruto could dabble with more is raising the stakes more and giving Boruto that true sense of despair, even if it's going to be wiped out at the end when it comes to friendship, like how you see with the Black Clover manga. But the fact of the matter is, it's like there were real tense moments where you weren't necessarily sure. There was great build up towards those moments where you had those fleeting moments of hope and then it gets snatched away. I think that when it comes to Boruto here, this gives us a really good opportunity. Like, I know for me, when I see that panel and I see the fact that Isshiki's coming here, the first thing that comes to my mind is, could Sasuke actually die? Could this be the moment that Boruto truly understands what Sasuke meant when Sasuke said that I'm willing to give my life for the village, are you willing to do so yourself? Like Boruto says all the time, he wants to be a ninja like Sasuke. That's his goal, that's his dream. He wants to support the Hokage from the shadows, and yet let's look at who has done that in past Hokage administrations. So when you look at Danzo ultimately got caught up in the darkness when he was serving under Hiruzen Sarutobi, and eventually the mistakes of his past came back to haunt him when Sasuke eventually pushed Danzo to a point where Danzo had to blow himself up. Like, when you look at Sasuke in this point, Sasuke sacrificed a lot just to get to this point, just like Itachi did. And for Sasuke's character, a lot of this is coming full circle. He's living the same route, the same role that Itachi did. The only difference is he's not undercover as a spy, and yet all the stuff he does for the village, he gets no credit for because nobody knows what he's doing outside of the higher ups. And so when it comes to the Boruto, this is that moment where you see the contrast. Like, we have to borrow from the anime for a bit, but in the anime, we know that Boruto's like exalted and praised for accomplishing so many missions with Team 7. The other teams are jealous of him. Boruto gets all this credit. Everybody knows that Boruto's the Hokage's son. And when you really think about it, Boruto's dream to be somebody who supports the Hokage from the shadows, it's almost impossible because you're known as the Hokage's son. You will forever be known as the Hokage's son. Tsunade left Konoha for decades, and when she came back, she was still known as Hashirama's granddaughter. So I mean, that's one of those things, like, that stigma's always gonna stick there for Boruto, and I think that this is that moment where we could see a dark change in Boruto. I think that the real sense of helplessness that comes from Boruto standing watch over Kawaki and seeing his father, seeing Sasuke go into a battle that Boruto knows they could be killed, and you have the village on fire, you have citizens being ripped apart, potentially members of the older generation just being slaughtered. I think that this is that time. This is that time right there. If they're gonna go the pain route, if they're gonna pay Easter eggs to the pain route, then this is the thing you have to look at, right? So when those chapters were coming out, there was a real sense of dread because for like a 3-year stretch, Masashi Kishimoto was killing characters left and right, and it wasn't just random characters. He was killing characters who were actually popular at the time. And when you got to the pain arc, like, we were like a year removed, or almost a year removed, from Jiraiya being killed. Jiraiya was one of the most popular characters in the manga at the time. And then you get to the pain invasion arc, and all of a sudden Konoha's being destroyed, bodies are being blown all over the place, Kakashi's struggling against the Deva path, and all of a sudden Kakashi dies. There was outrage. People felt like their heart got ripped out all over again. People were pissed off, saying they went through so much character development and interactions with Kakashi. Kakashi's story couldn't end like this. Then you see Shizune gets her soul ripped out. Tsunade's fate was left uncertain at the time because the last time you saw her, she just absolutely collapsed. And then with Hinata, we didn't know for weeks that Hinata was actually alive, so a lot of people thought that Hinata was dead and that she was killed for the plot purpose of having Naruto go into a six-tailed state. Like, there was so much going on at the time, and when you look back at it now, people will say the pain arc is one of the best arcs, and it's actually a mix of two things. It's a mix of the build up towards that, which I don't think Boruto's done quite enough to build up towards the payoff like that. But the other thing, which is what I think Boruto can do as a manga, is in the pain arc, there was that sense of helplessness because you didn't know every week by week, you didn't know whether or not characters that you love, whether or not they're actually gonna die. If Kodachi stretches this Isshiki invasion out for 2 to 3 months, and you have that real sense of dread there before you get to Naruto and Sasuke versus Isshiki, I think that that could be something. I think that that could be something to where you get real sense of danger for Boruto, and that's what eventually spurs Boruto to attempting to tackle Isshiki and getting in a situation where he might even potentially cause Sasuke's death. I think that something like that could have a tremendous impact on Boruto's character, because at this point in the manga, Boruto needs that one thing that's going to move him into another gear, because he's already got a little bit of dread in him, and the fact that he knows that Momoshiki's going to override his body at some point. But I feel like Boruto just needs just one more thing to really get his character to move into another gear. I don't think we're quite there yet, and I think that having that moment there where you see some real emotion out of Boruto, this is really gonna rely on Ikimoto as an artist to really capture expression. Like I talk about in the manga reviews about the panels and the artwork and everything, and other people point out the fact that sometimes Boruto characters that have some wrinkles and etc. But the fact of the matter is, it's like this is one of those times where we need to see Boruto break down. We need to see Boruto crying. We need to see him angry. We need those to be very expressive shots. They need to be very expressive. They can't be your regular run-of-the-mill manga panels that we usually get in the manga. This has got to be that moment right there where there's a lot of emphasis placed on it. Like moments like that, you really get to see what's so special about these very heartbreaking and tender moments in the series. there was extra emphasis placed on the eyes. That's why I shared in the manga review the fact that Masashi Kishimoto told Ikimoto, like, hey, you really need to work on characters' eyes being more expressive. That is a weakness of the guy. I really feel vindicated by going back and look at some of that stuff, because some of the stuff I've been critiquing the guy is stuff that Kishimoto's told him. So I'm not actually crazy on some of the stuff I'm saying, but like the way that the character's drawn, it really hits you in the gut. I feel like we need that for Boruto, whether it be that scene for helplessness, that scene for anger, or that scene for just absolute sadness. Like, we need to see that one moment to really cap this off right here. It cannot be a regular deadpan. So what I want to know from you guys is, I want you guys to tell me the 3 things that you think would absolutely destroy Boruto when it comes to Isshiki's invasion. Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.